guys, my name is Kenzie Oliver, and today's tutorial is going to be all about the face. And so I will show you how I colored this photo, but mainly we're going to be going into Photoshop and taking care of any blemishes and stray hairs and lightening up those eyes. Eyes are definitely the most important part of a photo, and so I'll show you what I do to the eyes to make them pop a little more. And that's all it is, just all about the face today. Okay, so we're gonna start out here in the profile browser, and I've chosen one and just determined the amount that I want it. Now I want her hair to show up a little more since I didn't have a hair light, so I bring the shadows up and check out to see if it brings in as much as I'd like. And we're gonna go to the texture, and whenever I do texture, I zoom in on the face just to make sure that it's not taking out all the texture, but it's just softening the skin a little bit. Now I am playing around with the highlights. Her face does have a lot of highlights, and so I just want to make sure that it's not too bright. Usually on photos, I'll bring the shadows up and the highlights down. And in order to see the before and after, like I was just doing, just use the backslash and you can see the before. I didn't end up using any of the changes on the vibrance and saturation, but I just wanted to see what it looked like. And now with this linear tone curve, we're just going to add a little bit of contrast. Very slight there. Again, I'm just checking those highlights. And then I actually just wanted to make it simple, and I went up to the top to bring down the contrast a little bit. Okay, so I think I like how that's looking. So now I'm going to bring it into Photoshop. Alright, so now we are in Photoshop. I'm going to make a new layer. First thing I'm going to do here, because I just got a little excited, was to add some fog into this photo. So I've downloaded fog brushes just off of the internet. They were free. Expand that, and then I'm gonna grab, in order for the color, I'm going to use I as a shortcut and then choose a color on her face for the fog so that I know it blends into the photo well. There we go. And in order to expand this, I'm just going to do Control T and drag it down so it fills the entire photo. Click Enter or hit the check mark. And drag that opacity down. Yep, I like it about right there. Next, what I'm going to do is create a mask. That's the rectangle with a little circle in it, and this makes it so that you can take out any part of the layer that's masked. And so something that helps you remember is white reveals, black conceals. So I'm going to use black to conceal that layer and to take it off of her face, because I still like that contrast on her face and her arms and pretty much all of her body. If you make any mistakes, you can just do Command or Control Z, and that'll take you back to where you were. So So there I just lowered the opacity of my brush so that it's not such a harsh line. I'm going to take a fog off of her hair a little bit, but not too much. Alright, so when I zoomed in, I realized I haven't touched up the hair yet. And so what we're going to do is create a new layer, hide the layer that I just made, and I put it underneath the fog so that it won't mess up the fog layer at all. So now I'm using the darken mode because the hair is lighter than the background with the clone stamp tool. To get to the clone stamp tool, it's Command or Control S, or you can just go to your toolbar and it's the one that looks like a stamp. So I'm just going to go through this and touch up her hair. I'll speed this up for you just a little bit. Alright, so now that the flyaways are taken care of, we can go back to working on the fog. And you can see that I have kind of that harsh line. So I'm just gonna use a brush on the mask that reveal and conceal. I'm now gonna reveal the mask again to make it look a little more natural. And I'm just playing around with the fog's intensity again to see what I really like. Okay, in order to make that layer, what I did was I did Shift Alt Command E. And what that does is it takes all of the layers that you've made and it creates one layer out of all of them. So now I'm going to start working on the eyes by increasing the contrast in them. And so I like to work on the eyes on one layer so that if I make it too intense, then I can go back and lower the opacity on it so it's not too much. So I have the dodge tool right now, which lightens things up, and this is the biggest ways to ruin someone's eyes is by making this intensity too much, and so you want to always check and make sure that they don't look like an alien or that their eyes don't look too crazy. But you can lighten around the pupil and then darken right around the edges, and it makes the eyes pop a little more. Alright, and then one more thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get the patch tool, which the shortcut for that is Command or Control J. And then you see those red veins? Oh, with the patch tool you have to have a background, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that the intensity of those eyes aren't too much first. Make sure that I like them. I like to pull back and do the before and after so that I can really make sure it's alright. And then I'll just start working on this same layer with the patch tool just to get, you see those red veins in her eyes? I'm just going to take it out so that it's all white, and I will speed this process up for you as well. Alright, so now that we have the eyes all taken care of, we're just going to focus on her skin. So next, I'm just going to name my layers really quick so I keep track of them. That's really important to do if you have a pretty big assignment where you're using a lot of different layers and groups. Here we're not using too many, so probably not going to get too confused at what my layers are. But I'm going to use the patch tool again just to take care of those stray hairs on her forehead. And again, I forgot you gotta have a background when you use the patch tool, so I'm just going to use Shift-Alt-Command-E again to create this layer. And we're going to use the patch tool to take care of the hair on her face. You see that brought in a little too much texture on her forehead, and so you want to make sure you take it to parts that are very similar to where you are so that it has the same texture. And I just repeat this process until all of the hair is off of her forehead. And I'm just going to use the same process on her neck. You can see the patch tool kept the texture a lot better than the spot healing brush, and so I stuck with that. If you take large parts, make sure to split up any patterns that may come from that. And there we've taken the major problems on her hair and neck. So now I'm just going to save this and take it back into Lightroom. I like to bring it into Lightroom at the end again because I like the coloring to be the last thing that I do. Like, I like to start with it and end with it, just in case I want to make it a little more dramatic, or if I think I've already gone too dramatic and I want to take it back a notch. And so I'm just playing around here. I intensified the color profile to give it more of a warm look. Then here I'm seeing if a vignette looks good, or more contrast. I don't like more contrast on this one. And then seeing how a different crop looks. I do like this crop, so I'm going to stick with it. That's the final result.